So I want to show you something bizarre, okay? Like, this happened in my childhood. This cartoon existed since, what, the 80s? Like, during a time of maximum puritanical faith. Like you had the Bush era with intelligent design. They were trying to push religion in school. The president of America and many other politicians were saying that the war in Iraq is like a divine battle, right? Like, incredibly religious, incredibly puritanical, that they had the satanic panic. Like these people had almost like Jesus tattooed on their penis, right? Like they would go to church every Sunday. And they didn't care about it. Like they looked at this cartoon and they said, yeah, I mean, it's fine. You know, like there's no pornography in it. Children get to watch X-Men, right? Like that's fine. There was no controversy surrounding it. Granted, you know, the characters wouldn't say the word fuck. Like you wouldn't have a cartoon like Has-Been Hotel. In fact, I remember like Beavis and Butthead and South Park, they were controversial specifically because of the cursing. And in South Park, it was the violence. But, like, other than that, it was fine, right? Like your grandmother had no issue with this. And there is no issue to be had. I mean, if you watch the Olympics, if you watch gymnastics, like, you get to see these things. You are exposed to these things, right? But apparently, this is the modern one, right? So it's like a Thanos snap. This is what like the modern audience wants, but this is what the corporations are gaslighting us that the modern audience wants. Like, the thing is, like, I'm not even upset if a character happens to be created like this. Okay, like if you create a character with no ass, like that wouldn't upset me. But I know the mentality behind it, which is incredibly insulting. Like, this is part of the 2016 feminist wave, which unironically believe that male gaze equals rape. Like, they are considering me an animal. That's what upsets me, right? Like, they believe that if I watch depictions of female characters the same way that they were depicted in the 80s, that I can't control myself. Like, I'm a danger to society. So the corporations, they have to hire consultants in order to make absolutely sure that I behave appropriately based on what I'm exposed, right? Like due to the fact that Hollywood liberal perverts like Harvey Weinstein can't help themselves but be law-abiding citizens, because of their failure at integrating in society, they started the Me Too movement, and somehow it's my fault, right? Like, somehow the medium that I'm being exposed to has to be sanitized so that I don't do the same thing that Hollywood liberal perverts like Harvey Weinstein does. It's bizarre. It is just like so outlandish, so... I have no words for it, right? But like, again, it disgusts me. And it's not the censorship that's upsetting. Because if I want to see Tushy, I go watch anime, right? Like, I go watch people that actually want to make money for a living. It's the mentality behind the censorship that is disgusting. And, yeah, I mean, you can see here, you know, like, the traditional, the modern. But the thing is, like, you have this new mindset. Like, there have been people that legitimately are brainwashed. Like this individual, right? Like, to be fair, both are hilariously bad. Call me a cock, call me a Chad, but I prefer bodies that don't look like they've had implants or reductions. The first screenshot looks like someone who's never seen natural boobs decided to draw boobs, then copy-paste on that ass. First of all, like, I live in Romania, this conversation just never happens. Like absolutely nobody ever. And I genuinely, like, in more than 37 years of my life, I have never, not once, heard anyone complain about the traditional X-Men design. I have heard a lot of people complain about modern designs. My wife, for instance, who is absolutely not invested into American politics whatsoever. Like, she doesn't know what a Democrat is. She doesn't know what an HR is. She doesn't know what diversity is. Like, she's just completely detached from all these conversations. She was watching Netflix Wheel of Time. And all the witches in Wheel of Time were like middle-aged, plain-looking women that pretty much look like the lady that lives at the 3rd floor that you go to borrow some sugar from, you know? Like very plain-looking. And all the men, they were chads, like they were chiseled. And my wife was wondering, it's like, why do these men that could probably have any woman they wanted are with these bitches? Because the problem wasn't like the women were just ugly, but their personality was rotten as well, right? And she noticed this throughout a lot of Netflix adaptations. Like, you have this trend where the female characters are plain, in some cases just flat out ugly, and their personalities are rotten as well, but they're like with these awesome, sexy chads, 10 out of 10, and it breaks her immersion. Like, she just doesn't understand. It's like, well, this is not, you know, how human beings interact. Like, the 10 out of 10s, they date the 10 out of 10s, and the mids date the mids. Like, it you know, it's the normal way of life. But anyway, right, that's besides the point. My point is that absolutely no one ever has commented on the traditional beauty style and looking at this and say, oh my god, this is like it has implants. Like, first of all, it isn't. Like, I have seen gymnasts and people that are at the Olympics. Like, if you wear a skin-tight bodysuit on a female, like, it's going to look like this. And secondly, like, if you look at the market, like what the market wants, they want this. Like, they covet this. They are willing to pay for it. Why would you pay to see average people? Like, you get to see average people for free. But if you're talking about art, why is it not okay, never okay, to have like something of a fantasy style, right? So I'm concerned about, like, why is this person saying this? Like, is this like what he thinks he's required to say in order to be accepted by the public? Like, you have to say this or otherwise you get in trouble, right? Because, like, again, I couldn't find a single person that thinks like this in Romania. And there were no people even in the United States that thought like this in the 90s, the early 2000s, or the 2010. Like this is a new way of thinking that is being repeated constantly until people say, oh yeah, like having a perfect body is definitely unacceptable. For women. For men, not so much. Like, no one is complaining about Kratos, right? No one goes and say, wow, I can't play God of War because Kratos is absolutely disgusting. Like who has muscles like that? Like, those are implants, right? Those are unrealistic. Like, you need to be jacked up on steroids to look like Kratos. No one is making those comments. No one is making those arguments because it's not part of the ideology, right? And again, like, I'm not bothered by Kratos. I think it's kind of cool. I mean, it actually looks better, right? Because, like, the feats that he does and the level of power and strength that he displays require him to look like that. But again, you know, like, they could dress him up. I mean, he doesn't have to have his chest naked, right? And they do this in the movies, like Thor, for instance. Like, Thor, a lot of time is being seen shirtless because it's fan service for women. But when it happens, when you have fan service for women, no one points it out. Like, that's perfectly fine. So anyway, my main concern is the fact that they covered it up. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. Like, even in today, with the modern audience, if they allow the character to exist, like, in the traditional form, I don't think anyone would complain, right? Like, especially when it's an established franchise, like X-Men has existed since the 80s. It has the exact same art style. They had absolutely no reason to change it. But it is what it is, right? Let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.